Okay, so we're here with another episode of Dane's Platform, and we got a Highland Games, professional Highland Games competitor, Damian Fisher. Damien, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So Damien is in the area. He's here for the Celtic Classic, and he and I have worked together. I want to say I've built 6 programs for you.
Around there.
Just working online with him as an online client, and a couple technical analysis here and there as well throughout the last, I want to say like 2 years maybe, or a year and a half.
2 years, last 2 seasons.
Okay. And Damien is a strength and conditioning coach at Western Washington in Ferndale?
Bellingham, Washington.
Oh, it is in Bellingham.
It is in Bellingham.
Okay. And he's a strength and conditioning coach for 13 different sports. So he's got a unique background where he's a competitive athlete still. You played basketball, and you were a track and field in college.
Yep.
And then on top of that, he also deals with the whole strength and conditioning and sports performance world. So he came down to visit. We were upstairs talking, and I conned him into doing an episode of Dane's Platform. So here we are sitting in our new sweet recording studio, freshly remodeled by Jason Kuhn. And so Damien, thanks for being on. And I want to just make this like an open platform, no pun intended, discussion where we could sort of just roll with whatever questions you might have, and maybe questions that I have for you as well, because you're dealing with a lot more athletes than I'm dealing with. So anyway, see you.
So kind of like what I was saying upstairs was what drew you to, and did you ever think of doing like a collegiate type coaching versus private setting? Because for me, I didn't want to bother with selling. Like mine, I enjoy teaching. That's really what my passion is, and I really like sports. So coaching kind of combined both of those. In a collegiate setting where I get to have a kid for 4 or 5 years in most cases, I get to see them grow as a person over that time, and that's a big part of why I do it, and why the private sector wasn't really a draw for me. Right. So just kind of interested. How'd you end up in this?
Yeah, well, I think that's unique, because I think that's interesting, because from my perspective, what I like most about the private sector for me is that what you just said, I can get a kid from 5th grade and I can see them go all the way up from 5th grade to their senior year of high school. Then they can come back, throughout college. And someone like Morgan Shigo, who's a hammer thrower at Penn State, I've worked with since he was in 6th grade. And then, he's going to be a 5th-year senior at Penn State, and we might work together again. Maybe I'll work with him as a strength coach, but if he's continuing to throw, which he's likely to, I'm probably going to sponsor him from Earth Fed Muscle. So to answer your question, I would say yes, I have. Soon after I had gotten Garage Strength off the ground, I applied for a coaching job, a collegiate coaching job, and I did get the job, and then I turned them down because I was sort of torn. I think, and I have been offered 2 or 3 other jobs over the years, throwing related, and then recently, even all the way up to one of my buddies who works at Penn State's like, what would it take for you to leave what you're doing now and go be like Penn State's football strength and conditioning coach? I think now at this point where I'm at is that because I can control what I'm doing, and because I can control sort of where my schedule goes to an extent, I would struggle to leave. But oftentimes I'm envious. Like, I'm very envious because we might not have the, elite facilities that some gyms have in the collegiate sports, and there might be other sports that I would like to work with, but at the end of the day, I don't think I would consider going back to the college ranks for more reasons based around, like, I feel as though I would be confined, and I just think that that's my personality too. I don't think that that's like, I think that I struggle to work with a lot of people. Like, I want things done my way and my way only. And when someone tells me it can't be, then I just blow steam out my ear and run my head into a wall.
No, I think that's real fair. I mean, that's something I hear from a lot of guys who I know who coach at the collegiate level. I'm in a really lucky situation where I don't really have anybody telling me what I can't do.
Right.
So I work with the coaches, but I am the head strength coach, and
Yeah.
I don't have anybody under me. So the head title is kind of redundant, but it works.
Yeah, that's good though.
So it's really, I'm doing whatever programming I feel is appropriate for the teams.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fortunate, again, that I answer directly to the athletic director as opposed to any individual coach. And because there haven't been any serious issues, nobody's lodged major complaints to date,
Right.
then they kind of let me do my thing.
Right.
So it's really up to me to coordinate with the coaches, but I know that's not the standard.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hear a lot about coaches will say, we need to do this,
Yeah.
and you have to answer to that coach as opposed to, kind of being able to do what I feel is necessary.
I think that I mean, that's almost the dream job. Maybe if they paid triple the amount of money, that would definitely be the dream job, right? For myself, going back to your original question, I think the one thing that I've struggled with the most in the private sector is the selling.
Yeah.
Is that, I'll sit here and say, why do people listen to this guy? Why do people watch this guy's videos? Why does this guy have 200,000 followers and he sells all these books, but he hasn't trained anyone like I have trained? He hasn't developed somebody from 7th grade and turned them into world-class athletes.
That's my peeve will be, I'll get kids a lot, especially on the men's basketball side,
Okay.
who will have their trainers from high school.
Yeah.
And you'll have a kid come in who's 6'6", maybe 180 pounds, says his knees hurt all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what have you guys been doing? Well, he said I shouldn't load my knees because they hurt. So I'll do these band exercises and I do these special things for basketball.
Right.
I mean, we can both say that this is not going to do anything for you, and they'll do that for 4 years. They look the exact same. They don't progress.
Yeah.
But they didn't get worse.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they kind of view it as, well, this must be helping because my trainer said that this is the reason my knees aren't collapsing.
Yeah, that's brutal.
I think it's one of those that it sells to the parents. The parents don't see them get hurt, so they say, well, this is okay because my baby's not hurt.
Right.
Whereas if you're actually pushing something, you can improve.
Yeah.
There's a chance
you're gonna have nicks and problems here and there.
I've heard the quote before that you're never going to see a professional athlete who is injury free.
Right.
It's just not going to happen.
No.
Like if you're trying to push your body to those kind of limits, you're going to have those aches and pains and tweaks, and the goal is to prevent the major injury, to avoid surgeries and that kind of thing. But you're going to have those aches and pains if you're actually trying to find a limit.
I think with something like that I've always been blown away with basketball, and I'd be interested to hear what your take is, because I don't have a ton of basketball guys come in. It's funny because the football team I work with, the high school football team I work with, and this is where I'd say that I'm fortunate enough that locally I don't have to sell as much. So the last 10 years that we've been around, I've sort of taken this, just put my nose down and work 60 to 80 hours a week. And it's like, after the first 2 or 3 years that I was in business, I didn't have to sell locally. And, financially for our goals here at the gym, at Garage Strength, it's like, now I have to sell stuff online. Now I just have to do it. I hate it. I don't like doing it. But I have locally gotten to the point where I can work with high school football teams. And, last year, for example, the high school football team that I worked with, the entire team basically also played basketball. Mm-hmm. And that same basketball team went to states. And even though I wasn't working with the basketball team, the whole team was football players. Right. So they're all just these monsters out on the court. So they're really the only basketball players I've ever really worked with long term. That's that Zevia burp I was talking about before we started. But it's always blown me away with basketball, where it's like, do you guys watch videos of like Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan? And if you just dive in a little bit, you can read about Al Vermeil, who's a strength coach, with Mike Gattone, who coached Tara Nutt, who's an Olympic weightlifting Olympic champion. And these were the guys who were the basketball strength and conditioning coaches for the Chicago Bulls, who won 6 titles. And Al Vermeil also won a Super Bowl title with the Chicago Bears. So what always blows me away is that this is a guy 30 years ago that was using Olympic lifting and strength and conditioning, squats and stuff with these guys. Horace Grant could clean 300 pounds. B.J. Armstrong snatched 110 kilos. Scottie Pippen could power clean 130. So why aren't we, where's the disconnect from 1995 to 2018, where it's like the basketball, and it's for me, it's always sort of been soccer, basketball, and baseball, where it's like, oh no, we can't do these squats because some quack told me I can't, you know. And how do you deal with that? Because I can just tell somebody, well, leave. I don't want you here. Whereas you're like, I got to deal with it. And then how do you deal with it? Because my personality is so brash, it could be like, well, yeah, we'll leave. Whereas, you're a lot more laid back.
Yeah.
So that's why I'd be
from the Northwest. I can't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
No, it's the way I approach it is, again, going back to trying to teach, is right in the beginning, whenever we start a year, regardless of whether your team starts that quarter or not, is we go over what are we trying to accomplish and how we're trying to get there.
Yeah.
So my view is I'm much more worried about the stimulus than I am the exercise. Okay. Like we can say, back squats are probably going to be the best exercise to get us from point A to point B on a number of different goals, but they don't actually matter for a basketball player. Yeah. So my goal is you're going to back squat. If we can't back squat, well, can we safety bar squat? If we can't safety bar squat, we have a pitch arc belt squat. Can we belt squat? We'll find an alternative. Yeah. And if the reason they don't want to is just because they feel uncomfortable with it, well then too bad. We're going to do them and we'll work to that point. Right. If because they have an actual injury issue. So I have a 7-footer, and when he came in, he maybe could do a quarter squat because his hips and ankles were so tight. Yeah. And so we spent a lot of time. He's
probably 18 years old.
He was 19 at that point.
Okay, so 19 years old, he's 7 feet tall.
Still growing into his body. Jeez. He was a late bloomer, and he went to a JUCO out of high school. Okay. Because he didn't play much in high school, even though he was 7 foot, because he hadn't grown into his body.
Yeah, he couldn't move well or whatever.
Yeah. So even in his first year, he was still really just growing into everything. And so what we did a lot, especially this past year, was we spent a lot of time doing like heels elevated. Yep. Started with goblet squats because that's what could get him there. Yeah. Because what I told him was I want to see you move through a below parallel full range of motion, so your hip has to flex that much. Yeah. And I want your knee to fold onto the calf. Yeah. And we're going to do whatever we can to get there, and then progress. So now he's still not the most mobile guy. I mean, his femurs are like 3 feet long. Yeah. So that's always going to be that's always going to be an issue for him. But he's back squatting. He's front squatting now. We'll use the safety squat bar, and he can get to near parallel because we put something in place that I sold him on, more or less. Just like, this is why we're doing this. I don't really care if you're uncomfortable because you don't have an injury limitation. Right. So you can suck it up and be uncomfortable because we're going to work towards this point for XYZ reasons.
I think one thing that would probably help you quite a bit is, so I'm sitting here, I'm 6'1", 6'2", if I'm hanging from a bar for 3 days. And I do have longer legs comparative to my body, but a basketball player is generally just going to look at me and be like, no, I'm not going to listen to you. Where you play basketball and you're taller, so that probably helps you a ton with that buy-in, where it's like, look, dude, I dealt with the same problems as you.
No, that has been a huge thing, in that I'm oddly mobile for a guy my size. Yeah. I mean, I can go in the splits. Right. Don't know why. I've been able to my whole adult life.
That's crazy.
But that's definitely been a big part to sell to athletes in general, is because I think a lot of the time strength conditioning coaches get a bad rap as just being a meathead who just wants to psych people up and move weights around. And so a lot of it is, one, just who I am as a person is much more laid back type. Two is because I was an athlete in something other than lifting weights. And lifting weights is still not really my passion. Like I lift weights because I like to throw things really far. Yeah. That's it. Like I don't enjoy lifting on its own that much. And so I can really bring that side of it, in that we're not lifting weights to get a huge side effect, but we're lifting weights to improve your performance in this, and this is XYZ reasons why we're getting better because of these weights. Okay. So I have my simplest way I explain it is I have a force velocity curve chart that I have hanging up outside my office. So every time we do these initial talks, I point to spots on there and say, this is why we're doing this. Draw, the power line and an unscientific linear line, and say, this is why we're doing these things. This is where it fits in. This is why the program is structured this way. And because I can say, I was a player, I was an athlete, I did these things, and this helped for XYZY reasons, and because I can still demonstrate a lot of that stuff in a more athletic way. Again, I can show, like, this is how an athlete moves, as opposed to, you should move like that as an athlete. I'm going to go squat more over here. Right. So that's definitely been a huge part on selling it, especially to basketball players who are so resistant to strength training, Which again is too bad because you look back to
that.
Yeah, it's been around for years. We know this stuff helps, but I think they watch a lot of guys now. LeBron James posted a squat video a month or two back after some time off, where it was crazy wide stance, like quarter squat depth, everything kind of terrible stuff.
Right.
And they say, well, why do I need to squat with LeBron James?
LeBron just does that.
LeBron James.
Yeah,
That's why. Because he was a grown man at 15 years old.
Yeah.
And you're not.
I think so. So my next question would be, how do you sit there, working with that many kids? My from a scientific perspective is that, I sit there and I have wrestlers, I've got weightlifters, I've got throwers, I've got football, and that's my periodization currently.
Yep.
So with you, what models from a periodization perspective are you using that? Okay, we've got basketball and they've got games twice a week, I guess, during in season, and then out of season. Is there a specific model that you might use that you use out of season and then that you use in season, do you educate them on that, or is it more just like, look, we're gonna get a little bit stronger once the season comes, it's just auto-regulating week to week? Like, how do you set that up?
To be honest, I've gone away from a lot of periodization for a lot of the teams, just because of time. I mean, going into the collegiate schedule again, we're a quarter school, which is also kind of weird. Yeah. So we'll come in the fall and we'll have...
Isn't that how UW is too?
Yeah, West Coast schools are often quarter.
Yeah.
Don't know why. We do things weird out
there.
Yeah. But, so we'll go in the fall and we'll have 9 weeks, I think, till Thanksgiving week.
Okay.
So we only have 2 days that week, then everybody's off, unless you're in season.
Yeah.
And then you have 1 week, and then if they're not in season, we cannot mandate any work for dead week or finals week.
Okay.
And then they have 3 weeks off for winter break, and then they come back. Same deal. We have 8 weeks, dead week, final week. Same thing in spring.
So it's really structured into
really we have
like 8 week blocks.
Yes, and that's how it has to be. So I've had to go away from a lot of we're going to work through these nice progressions. One, because they didn't seem to work that well.
Right.
Two, because the schedule doesn't really allow it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've gone to is we'll just change blocks of emphasis, which ideally will go in a nice order, to complement each other.
Right.
But it depends on where that team is, what their needs are. What I'll usually do is have, say, a template. So we'll do soccer, for example. Soccer is starting their off season, and we'll say, all right, we need to have elements of conditioning, speed, power, and strength, just to break it into 4 nice, really easy categories.
Right.
And we'll say we'll order which one of those is the most important, more or less. So let's just say we said power for this period. So we'll, relatively to other times, we'll increase Olympic lift volume, we'll increase jumping volume, we'll increase med bulk volume, and we'll back down static lifts like squats and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We'll back down the conditioning work. We'll back down the max speed work. We'll still use all of those components because that's a big thing for me is...
The volume would be
right.
Less.
We're emphasizing 1 or 2 qualities.
Okay.
And what I really try to do and what I try to talk to them about is having a very specific goal or indicator. Kind of like Dan Paff talks about key performance indicators.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's exactly... I don't think it's exactly like him, but we'll have some kind of a test or an indicator that says we improved in this quality. Okay. So say for a soccer player for power, just as an example, we could do a hang power clean.
Yeah.
Right. And we'd say our primary goal to indicate we've increased power over this period is to increase your hang power clean over these next 4 weeks.
Right.
And we'll do all this other stuff to still maintain those qualities, but there's going to be one kind of an emphasis. And it doesn't have to be a lift.
It could be 3 things.
It could
be double leg jump.
Usually it'll be 2 or 3 things that will all indicate or all be related to whatever our primary goal is for that period. And that's,
now, do you set up structured testing, or are you just saying here's because I was gonna say maybe here's a workout. We're gonna test your first workout, and then that 8th week or 4th week we're gonna test slightly again.
A lot of it will depend on what we're testing.
Okay.
Because it'll come down to time.
Right.
Because again, if they're in the middle of their off season, so say soccer, we get 8 hours period with them.
Oh, jeez.
So they get 2 of those.
A week?
Yes.
Okay.
So 2 of those get to be technical. So the coaches will have them for those.
Mm-hmm.
The way it's happened in the past, and changes depending on the team, is the coach wants 2 more of those hours to be conditioning stuff.
Right.
So then we have 4 hours to do any of this other kind of work that we want. So if we get timing gates out and we want to do sprint testing, because max speed is what we're testing, that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So we'll do a before and after for that kind of thing.
Okay.
If it's something in the weight room, like a hang power clean, it'll just be within the workouts.
Yeah.
Like by week
easier,
4. Yeah, by week 4. And what I've seen is we get better results that way.
So when you're tracking the data, like let's say, are you tracking data, for the football team I work with, we use an app, Team Builder.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's the best, but I think it's it helps manage that large volume.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to you about that afterwards.
Okay.
So I've looked into it, but haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Okay, so do you have them record everything, or are you recording it, and then you can just go back and look?
They just have their sheets.
Okay.
And they'll have each sheet, and then if there's a tweak to a person, I'll write them in. Basically, I print the template, and then we'll write in different tweaks, so I don't have a bazillion Excel files I have to print out.
Yeah. And then you have to go through and sift through all the data.
Yeah, and then I'll usually I'll pull out any relevant data. So just because of time, I won't catalog things off in like dumbbell rows or pull-up number and those kind of things if that's not what we're looking at.
Right.
Simply because of time. Like I would love to catalog those. I will just look at what is our squat loading, what is our clean loading, basically what are our fundamental lifts, and track their volume and load.
Here's a dumb question, quick.
Yeah.
Do you ever track, and I don't think this is that valuable for soccer, but something like pull-ups versus how far they can do like a sideline when they're throwing in the ball?
We have for track. We haven't done it for soccer.
Okay, I'd just be interested to see, like, some kid can do a pull-up with a 120-pound kettlebell. Is he the guy that we should have throwing in the ball from the sideline? A soccer coach might be like, that's a dumb idea, but I think about stuff like that.
No, and I agree, and I think that's where, again, working in the sports performance side of things becomes tough, because we can see that. And we can say that kid should be the one throwing in. Problem is that the ball's on the
it's on the other side of
and he's a left back, and it doesn't work out.
But my argument to that would be like, okay, well that we know that's the quality to improve throwing in a ball. So we need to have 4 guys that can do pull-ups with 100-pound.
Yeah.
And then you can sit there from the beginning of the week or the beginning of the program, say, okay, leading into...
often what we'll do, again, this has just been a pure time thing because it's just me.
Yeah.
And then whatever interns I can grab that are halfway
decent. You can muster up,
and we're fortunate we have a kinesiology program.
That's good.
So I always have people interested. Finding half-decent people is the hard part.
Right.
But I ask the coaches a lot to give feedback on what their players need.
Okay.
Because of time, I have the general template. And then if somebody has an injury or somebody has a specific need that doesn't match up, then we'll address that and we'll switch it.
Right.
Or if I really want coaches to come to me and say, hey, this person's having trouble with this. Can we do any extra work, or can we change the focus? So that would be what hopefully they would do with like the soccer player. If you have a forward who needs to be doing throw-ins just because that's the way it happens, and he says, this guy can't throw the ball worth shit.
Yeah, then we gotta...
Yeah, and then we try to address it. We had a softball player last year who's a slap hitter.
Okay.
Who had very poor running gait. Like it was just kind of off and kind of funky.
Doesn't use her arms.
Yeah, she'd tend to really reach ahead with her legs instead of putting any force on the ground.
Yeah.
So the softball coach came and said, hey, can you help her on her running gait?
Right.
And we'd been doing a little bit, but what she did was she came in twice a week for extra things to try to address that. So some of that was just strength.
Especially the slap hitter, she should be a little quicker.
Like she's got to go.
Yeah.
And she was a starter. She was our best catcher. So it was like, she's going to play, so we need to try to address this.
Right.
So she came in for extra stuff, which could be more specific strength, like sled pulls. Some of it was just technique. We did a lot of video, just so she can actually get a connection, because part of it was she couldn't feel it.
Yeah.
So if she came in twice a week for half an hour, we could film a couple runs, say this is what you're working on. Even if I couldn't watch her the whole time because I had to bounce back to a group, she could still get some feedback.
And she could learn how to teach herself, right?
And she would greatly improve by the end of the year. And she came in this fall and was like, I feel much better. I think I still got better on my own over summer.
That's
because she was able to understand, what am I doing wrong, and then take some purposeful steps to try to fix it, as opposed to just doing repeat sprints and saying get faster.
And then that's just beating a dead horse. It doesn't matter. All right, so we're on a time crunch. So I got one more thing that I want to ask you. Well, it's like multiple things, but we'll do this as like a speed Q&A.
All right. Just ring a buzzer if I take too long.
Well, it'll be simple. I'm going to give you a sport. You give me the lift that you have found that transfers best to that sport.
All right.
Now I just got to think about which.
Well, then my question is, what do you mean by transfer?
Okay,
That's
so
the
like
hard part.
we'll transfer to best. Yeah,
What do I
that's-
think makes them best? If I had to choose one?
Yeah, like okay, this lift will make him the best softball player. That's where it's like, okay, well, we're gonna talk about specific quality.
Yeah,
I know.
because then they get stuff.
Yeah. Let's just say broad spectrum.
All right.
Come on, make it fun,
Got
dude.
you. I got you.
Okay. Do you have football? Do you guys work with
We
football?
don't have football.
That's what I was gonna say.
Fortunately, since
Yes, that's why you have the dream job,
Yes,
because
yes.
football's not there. But you don't have wrestling, do you?
Nope.
Yeah, I figured you wouldn't have. Okay, so
Wrestling Northwest doesn't have wrestling.
yeah, that's pretty. I think that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll pick 5 sports. 5. Well, maybe there might be a little bit of a crossover,
Okay.
but we'll start with distance running.
Okay.
Distance running, best movement for a distance runner.
Reverse lunges.
Dude, that was fast, and that was fast and impressive. Volleyball,
Volleyball, half squats.
baseball,
Deadlifts. If I'm having to pick one.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking about the next sport because I'm trying to think outside of track and field. You probably don't have field hockey. Well, let's go soccer.
Yeah, we don't. Soccer, front squats.
Okay. Let's get 2 more in there. Soccer. Basketball.
Basketball be in general same as volleyball, half squats.
Okay. All right, well, let's do 2 more. Sprinters.
Sprinters, back squats.
Okay.
Take that back, power clean.
Okay, for a sprinter.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, they're both good.
Yeah, they both work.
Let's
You
think
can't
one.
go 2 of the same in a row.
I'm trying to think of one more unique sport that I just. What's one sport
We have rowing,
Okay, rowing.
deadlift.
I was just gonna say, like that's like the only other thing I can think of, like for rowing specifically, and Coon's gonna get mad because I'm gonna go on a little bit of a tangent before we finish up, is that so one of my very close friends happens to be a strength coach at a prep school nearby, and rowing is huge in this area, like closer to Philly. So he's at Mount.
It's oddly enough, it is in the Northwest too.
Okay.
Like we won the national title 2 years ago. We were runners up last year. UW won the national title a year ago.
So it's pretty similar. Like if you drive down, if you're in Philly, you can see Boathouse Row they call it. But one thing that he says, that Eric says with his rowers, he's like, listen, if I can get them really good at deadlifts, really good at cleans, really good at power cleans, and something like close grip snatch, they're going to take that strength, and then on top of that, this is the speed work, this is the strength work, and then he was having these never-ending battles with his rowing coach. Like, do you realize I am a good 500-meter rower because I can pull. This is Eric saying.
Yeah.
He's built very similar to you. I can pull 600 pounds, and I can also close grip snatch, 100 kilos. And he's like, that is using like the long pull and then being fast, and it's combining.
I've done a 500-meter row once. It was
Okay.
at a brewery contest. I already had a few.
Yeah. So you're ready.
And it was whoever had the fastest 500-meter row got like a whole bunch of raffle tickets to win a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
Like whatever, I'll go for
Oh,
it.
yeah,
I've never been on a rower before, and I got like a 118 or something for the 500 meters.
That's legit. That's
because
good.
I'm 6'6".
Yeah,
I
and you can
pull
pull.
the crap out of it.
Yeah.
That's-
Okay. That's good. That's good that confirms my rowing training ability.
We've had success with it. The biggest thing is I've had to really watch the volume.
Right.
Just because
not beating them up because they're lower backs.
They do so much pulling volume, and we'll go away.
And their inflection so much.
We'll go away from deadlifts through the meat of their season.
Okay.
Just because we found it just makes people just get beat up.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that I feel like if you hammer their deads and then right as their meat of their season comes in, pull them out, they probably just blow up on
rock
the
it up.
yeah.
And that's what we've seen is everything just shoots off pretty much as soon as we take them out. So yeah, that's been successful for us.
All right. Well, thanks for being on Dane's platform.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
appreciate it, and good luck tomorrow in the Celtic
Appreciate it.
Classic.
Thank you.
more pumped. A little more, or what?